Well, good morning. Thank you for your time today. As always, we're grateful to be able to connect with you all, and I'm happy to see so many familiar names in the chat. For those who don't know me, I am Bruce Anthony. I'm one of the trainers with CERVIS Technologies. And before we jump right in, I want to make sure that you know that I have several colleagues on the call who can help today answer your questions via the chat. So please feel free to ask away throughout the webinar. They'll answer your questions directly, and they'll also pass along questions to me that they think will be helpful for the entire group. I also want to note that if you have to leave before you receive a response, our customer support team will reach out to you afterwards with a response to your question. And one final note before we begin, hopefully you are aware, but we do have all of these webinars recorded and available on our YouTube tutorial channel. You can access that by going to video.servicetech.com or just going to YouTube and searching for CERVIS Technologies. But we have a lot of tutorials on there, from shorter form tutorials on specific topics, some videos intended for volunteers, tutorials on how volunteers can access parts of the system and utilize different features. And then, of course, all of our recorded webinars are on there as well. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dig into it. So today we are going to talk about different ways to expand your usage of your service database through the tags feature. And as always, we're going to start off by defining terms, what tags are, kind of how and when to use those. We'll jump into creating tags, different use cases in different parts of the system that they touch. And then we'll cover how you can use tags to improve your web integration and how volunteers are directed to the events that they're interested in or that you want them to see. And then lastly, we'll cover reporting in CERVIS and how that can be amplified by your usage of tags in every part of the database. So to begin, tags are an attribute which you can utilize within 3 different parts of the system. You can use tags in the volunteer database side, in groups, and also in opportunities. Each of these sections is self-contained, but you can create very in-depth reports, as we'll see later on, by using them all together in combination with the custom participation report. Tags differ from other attributes in that they're visually represented in the different sections of the system for easily adding, removing, and searching. And then tags can also be used in more of a temporary fashion if you want to do like a quick search and then kind of compound that search with other data. We'll get into that more later too. So let's take a look at where tags are accessible in the different parts of the system. We're going to start off in the volunteer management side and then move through groups and opportunities. So when you're creating a new volunteer, you do have the ability to add tags into that person's profile right off the bat. This is obviously something only accessible on the back end. Volunteers cannot add tags to their profile. They also can't see what tags are on their account. So you could tag a volunteer with some relevant piece of information, and the volunteer would be none the wiser. They're not going to see that information on their account. So this is one place where you can add tags to a volunteer, is when you are creating a new account. Otherwise, typically you're going to be adding tags to existing profiles, and that's going to be done through the volunteer database. So if you go into Search Manage Volunteer Database under Volunteer Management, from here you can search for a particular individual, or if you leave this blank, you can search your whole database and see different accounts. When you are looking at a volunteer's profile, either viewing profile details or going into manage someone's account, you can see the tags on that person's profile in those places. So you'll see that right at the top when you're viewing profile details. And likewise, if I go in to manage someone's profile, you'll see that data right at the top. So if someone has tags on their profile, they'll be laid out like this. You'll see which tags are on their account. You can click on a tag to search for other individuals with that tag. You can also click on the X here to remove that tag from this person's profile. So you can kind of quickly engage this information in a way unlike any other part of the database. To add a tag to someone's profile, just click on this icon on the right-hand side to add a volunteer tag, and then you can start typing a tag in here. And the system will look for matches. So if you already have an existing tag that matches what you started typing, even if it's not the first word in that tag, then it will pull that up and you can just click it, of course, to add it in. If you want to add more tags in, just add a comma and then start typing another tag. So that's one way to add tags to volunteers' profiles. This can also be done in bulk. So if you want to search for all the people who registered for a particular event, or all the people who've completed a certain training, or all the people with a certain email address, like your work email address, you could go and run a search in the advanced volunteer search. Once you've pulled up those results, select all the results from here, and then go in to do an update. So in the drop-down menu, select Update Selected Volunteers. From there, you can pick what things you're updating. And of course, in this instance, we're talking specifically about tags. Now, there's a lot of data on this page. So if you're having trouble finding what you're looking for, tags are at the bottom. But you can always use Find in Browser. So Control F will pull that up. And if you type in the term you're searching for, that'll highlight what you're looking for. So in our case, we just want to be adding a tag, not removing tags. So we can select that, click on Select Items to Bulk Update, and then you can create a tag through here. Now, if you are generating a new tag, so let's say we're making a brand new tag that I've not made before, it's not going to pop up any results. And so when I go to create that tag, the system will just generate that. Now, Service does some formatting here. So if I put any capitals, the system is going to make all of those lowercase, which is why I didn't type it with capitals in the first place. And then also it's going to remove spaces and insert underscores instead. So essentially it becomes one string. So if we go ahead and create this, now I'm basically telling the system I want to update all those accounts I searched for with this brand new tag. And I can say, yes, proceed with bulk update. So going back into Manage a Volunteer's profile, again, you'll see all the tags on their profile. And again, you can quickly search for any person with a particular tag by clicking on that. Now, one other important option here on the left-hand side is this tag cloud, so the blue icon. If we click in that, you'll be able to see from here all of the tags in your system. So not just the ones on that person's profile, but all of the tags that you have in your console. You can see how many are currently in use. So you can see essentially how many people have that particular tag. So we see that for the volunteer database side, we see that for opportunities, and we also see that for groups. So all of that information is actually stored in here, and you can get here from any person's profile, any group, or any opportunity. And that way you can kind of quickly see all the tags, or from here you can also remove things. So maybe you created a tag as a temporary function, just to run a quick search. You can create that tag, use it for your search, use it for your report, and then in here you can delete a tag. Now, only admin have this type of permission to delete a tag from the whole database, because it would, of course, remove it from every person's profile as well. But also from here, you can run searches. So if I just want to go in and see everybody who has this particular tag on their profile, you can just click on it from there, and that'll show you all of those accounts. So adding tags to the volunteer side of the system is pretty straightforward. You either do that through a volunteer's account or as a bulk action. We'll see the same type of thing occurring in groups as well as in opportunities. So let's talk about groups briefly. So groups allow you, of course, to track external organizations, corporations, clubs, churches, school groups, community groups that are working with you. And you can use tags to kind of categorize those groups. It's a pretty common way to use tags in groups. So essentially, let's say this is a school, which of course it is, then I can go in to manage this group, and then I can add a tag to define that this is a school. And then I could readily search for any group that has this school tag on it, and then run a report for all those groups, or maybe just communicate with all those group leaders at one time. But the concept of what you're using your tags for obviously depends on what part of the database you're in. Adding, searching for, removing tags, the tag cloud, all of those functions on the group management side are identical to what we saw on the volunteer management side. The concept of tags within groups, again, that's going to be something that you'll use to search for sets of groups at a time, which you can use to run reports, or you can use to communicate with the group leaders, or send out emails, or do bulk registrations, or email all the members of all those groups. So there's different things that you can do once that's, once that search has been done. All these bulk actions in here kind of communicate towards that. But yeah, in general, tags on groups are used to essentially categorize those groups. Something else you can do that's kind of important is maybe you have a set of groups or maybe there's like a corporate partner that has several different departments, but you want to still be able to kind of identify that they're all part of the same group. Well, a tag would let you do that. You could tag all of those groups with something that's unique to that corporation or to that club or whatever it is. And then you could search for all of the groups that are kind of a part of that particular tag. All right, and then tags in the opportunity management side are also very similar in terms of how they're added and how you can search for that information and what you can do with that. We'll expound on that a little bit more in a bit here, but when you're creating an opportunity, under the advanced options, you can immediately add in tags. And then, of course, when you're engaging with existing opportunities in your database, if you go into manage that opportunity, you'll see the same set of icons. So at the top of that page, you'll see the option of what tags are already on this opportunity, how to add tags on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, access to that tag cloud. Now, backing up a little bit, I want to talk more about kind of when to use tags or really what this data can represent. So we saw a couple examples in the volunteer dashboard. I tagged all of my staff members or people who were recruited by a certain person, or maybe volunteers to be good candidates to be lead volunteers. Really what you use tags for on the volunteer database side is anything that you need to then be able to search by. Maybe you want a quick communication key to find a certain set of individuals and engage with those people, send them an email, or maybe you just want a way to label all of your staff members or something like that. So they're really just kind of a searching mechanic on the volunteer side to find sets of volunteers, communicate with those people, run searches, run reports by that data, export information if you need to. But essentially, it's just another way to add a layer of information that you can quickly search by. This information could just as readily be stored as like a group or something along those lines, but tags are a little bit more visual. They kind of give you that, right at the top of the page here, you see all the tags on somebody's profile, and then you can quickly search by those. So they're helpful in a lot of ways for that reason. But what you use tags for on the volunteer database side is obviously entirely up to you. It's just very common to track things that, you want to quickly label on a volunteer's account and then be able to search by. These cannot be used as restrictions. So if you're thinking about labeling someone as being certified to handle heavy equipment, that'd be better to do as a checklist item rather than a tag, because you can't set restrictions using tags. These are really just kind of a searching mechanic on this side. In the group management side, we kind of already talked about this. You can use tags to categorize your groups. What type of group is it, or how would you like to identify it? Maybe it's a part of a set of groups, a local set of churches, something like that. You can use tags to kind of quantify that information. And then in opportunities, tags can be used for a variety of things. You can use them, more internally. Maybe you want to define some events that have some particular attribute, like in this Zoo Wings event and a few others that I have. I've labeled those as family friendly. So internally, I like to know that, but I also use this externally. When I'm engaging with volunteers, I can actually send them to an event listing page that only displays my family-friendly events. So you can, for example, create pre-filtered landing pages, and this could be embedded on your website too, where basically someone clicks a button that says, I want to see all the family-friendly events, and then that would only show them those events that are labeled with that tag. So that's something you can do kind of internally to identify sets of events. You can also use tags to identify other pieces of information about events. So this family-friendly idea is pretty helpful, but you can also do things like, maybe this set of events applies toward a certain grant. They're not all necessarily in the same interest category, but they have something similar about them, so they apply toward a certain grant. Now I can search for all those events at once and then go and run a report on all of that information. So that kind of information is pretty helpful as a tag as well. Really, it's kind of up to you, again, what those labels identify or what you use them for. But those two concepts of kind of identifying sets of events that you want to point volunteers toward, or identifying sets of events that you need to run searches by, potentially run reports by, is typically how tags are used on opportunities. Now, a couple quick notes about just generating tags. There is a character limit. You can only include up to 40 characters. That's pretty generous. You shouldn't normally run into that. But also, you can have as many tags as you need to. So if you need to use some variation with numbers, things like that, you can always do that. Again, they're only displayed internally. Volunteers don't see these directly. Even like the example I was using earlier where I'm pointing people towards all these family-friendly events. Well, that's in the URL here because I'm using a keyword filter to filter by that tag. And in particular, if you're looking to copy this, there's an asterisk in front of the keyword family-friendly, which identifies to the system, this is a tag. So it's searching for all the events with this tag. But yeah, volunteers are seeing that in the URL here, potentially, if they're looking at the URL at all. But otherwise, they're not seeing that on the events themselves. If someone clicks in to view one of these events, they don't see that family-friendly tag labeled here. That might be some good information to communicate in the description of an event, but they don't flat out see the tags as they exist in the system. So that's true of every portion of the database in terms of what volunteers are engaging with or what they can actually see. Now, I talked a lot about searches with tags, and I just want to point out kind of where those things take place, because that leads into sort of our last topic, which is reporting. Now, tags I harped on can be searched by, and let me show you where that takes place in each of the different parts of the database. So in the volunteer database, under the advanced volunteer search, you have the option to click in here to volunteer tag search options. And in here, you can search for volunteers based on tags. Now, we already looked at how you can click on a tag to quickly search for any person with that tag. But if you want to find a subset of people with a tag, like maybe everyone who has the tag of staff, but more specifically, I only want to view the accounts with admin access, right? Or maybe instead of that, I want to see all the accounts that are older than X number of years or whatever it is. So you can apply a search of a tag and then include some other piece of information in the advanced search to find kind of narrower results. You can also search for people with multiple sets of tags. So maybe I wanted to do not just staff, but full-time staff and kind of both of those tags at once. You can use commas to separate those options in here to find people with more than one tag. If you want to find people with either or, you can change that comma out for a semicolon. And that would show you any person who has this tag or the other tag. So again, if you're quickly looking for people with a particular tag on their profile, it's probably easiest to go into the tag cloud and just click on that tag through here. But if you're trying to find that information in conjunction with something else, maybe a subset of individuals with that tag or people with that tag and something else, then the advanced volunteer search has that ability. You can also, just from the main volunteer dashboard, search for a tag directly. So I mentioned, you can go into the tag cloud, or I could just go in here and type in or start typing in a tag. And then that would allow me to select any of those matching results. And then from there, search for people with that tag. So that's the volunteer database. In the group database, similar concept. If we go into group management, from here, I can run a search for groups by tag. So you can see search by group tag. I select that radio button here, type in or start typing in a tag, and then it'll go give me results. I can just click on one of those and search by that tag. And then again, you can also use the tag cloud to affect some of those searches. And then you also have the option in groups to do an advanced search. And within there, you can search for particular tags in conjunction with other pieces of information, like when was the group created, or when did they have their first activity, or have they served more than X number of times, or who's the point of contact, all that kind of stuff. So that's groups. And then on the opportunity side, you can imagine very similar. If we go into search and manage existing opportunities, from here, I can just do a search by an opportunity tag, start typing in the tag. It'll give me suggestions, and then I can click on that to view those results. I can also use the tag cloud from any event, go into the tag cloud and just click on a particular tag through here. And then again, there is also an advanced opportunity search. So if we go under advanced options, when we're in the opportunity dashboard, You can go into advanced search, and from there, use a tag, and then, combine any other piece of information, location data, interest category, type of event, keyword searches, who's the point of contact, is it open or closed, and all that kind of stuff as well. Now, once you've run a search for, a set of events, a set of volunteers, a set of groups, there's a lot of different things you can do within Service. I want to quickly run that down because that's kind of the primary usage of tags, is running those searches and kind of setting apart, a list of volunteers or a list of groups or a list of opportunities. So in the volunteer database, once you've run a search, you can communicate with all those people. You can select them all, send them an email, send them a text message if you have text messaging enabled. You can also download spreadsheets, so export account information, print out name tags. There's lots of different printouts you can create through here. But in general, you can either communicate with or export or report on that information. You can also, of course, perform bulk updates and things like that. Same thing in the group management side. You can run searches for sets of groups, communicate with those people, run reports on those people, send emails to the group leaders or to the group members. So, communicating or reporting again. And then in the opportunity database side, same sort of concept. You can communicate with the points of contact for different for 4 different events. So you can go in and email all the organizers at one time. You can view all the registered volunteers and email all the registered volunteers, view the waitlisted volunteers. You can mark no-shows, print sign-in sheets, create lots of different printouts. And then one other thing that you can do with all of these searches is in the report management section under volunteer management, you can combine searches from all 3 of those parts of the database to create very specific reports. So if you run a search for a set of individuals and a set of events, you can come in here and use this custom participation report and tell the system to use your previous search for volunteers and maybe your previous search for opportunities, and then set your date range for your report, select what data you want to include, and run a report. And this will only show you individuals who showed up in that previous report and their participation within events from the previous search that you ran. I said report earlier, I meant search, sorry. So basically you're narrowing your results. This report is very specific. I'm looking at a specific set of volunteers and whether or not they participated in a specific set of events. So you can get some very specific information by doing searches like that. Obviously, you don't always need it to be that narrow. Maybe you just want to see what did that set of individuals do, regardless what they were registered for. Or maybe like in the example of that grant, I want to see everyone or all of the volunteers who registered for any of the events in that grant because I want to see all of the activity from, the events that apply towards that grant. So that's where those tags can be really useful in reporting, is kind of in their conjunction with this first report type, custom participation report. Because any search you run in Service can effectively lead to reporting, whether it's in this manner, where you're actually reporting on hours, or if you're just exporting information out of Service in spreadsheet formats, if you need spreadsheets of contact info or maybe address labels or whatever it is. Effectively, any search you can run in Service can be transformed into a report in one way or another. Okay, I do want to point out, while we're on this topic, there is one other quick change that I want to mention in reporting. Some of you are very, very familiar with the yearly participation summary report. This is a report that's intended to give you a year's worth of data on a month-by-month basis. It's pretty useful if you need to do like fiscal year reporting or end-of-year reporting and you want to get all of your hours sorted by month and kind of see those sorts of trends. You can tell this report what your start month and year is that you're running this report for. So if you're operating off of a fiscal year that starts in April, you can select that as your starting month. And then let's say we want to report on fiscal year 2022. I can select that, and then that'll basically just give us 12 months from that start date. So each month will be reported separately. And then this report can also use those same queries that we were just talking about. So you can run searches for sets of volunteers. You can run searches for sets of groups or opportunities, and then use that to influence this report. So maybe you want to do a month-by-month report on a particular set of events. You go and run that search. Maybe it's by a tag, maybe it's by something else, but then you can apply that previous search that you ran so that only those events show up in this report. And then again, this report gives you your activity by month. Let me just show you a quick example of this. I'll leave this open. And again, we're starting in April of 2022. And this is going to print out as a Word document, although you can select to do this as a spreadsheet at the top of the page here. The format allows you to select between Word document or spreadsheet. For some of these reports, they prefer one over the other, but for this report, you can choose. So this report is just going to give us, again, essentially totals for each month. I did low detail, so it gives us in each month how many volunteers, events, registrations, and hours we had. So it's giving us per month that information, and then of course a total for that entire time frame. So that 12-month period, we get a total at the bottom for that for this report. Okay. All right, so we're going to move into questions next here. So feel free to continue writing those in. We did get a question about saving searches, and that's an excellent question. I'm glad that you asked that. That actually got changed recently as well. So in every part of the database that we've looked at today in terms of running searches, you can also save searches. So for example, maybe you need to look for a set of individuals with a certain tag and some other attribute on their profile on a consistent basis, right? Like maybe they speak a certain language and have a certain tag, something like that. Once you've run a search in the volunteer database, so let's say we want to find all the people, we'll just do a search by a tag at this point. Once I run this search, as long as that search didn't have any date ranges associated with it, you'll see at the top of this menu the option to save your search. So when you save a search, it'll save your previous filters, whatever you applied. So all of the filters by name. So if I wanted to call this my staff search or just staff, you can choose to save a search as either private or shared. If it's private, then only the person who saved the search and administrators can review the information. If it's shared, your other staff would have permission to view that data as well. And basically what I mean by viewing that data is running that search. So they still have to have permission to run searches in the first place. But we're talking about leadership team and group leaders would be able to run that same search and then see whatever data they have access to in general. But if we save this search here, again, it's saving the filters. It does not save the results. So if any of this information changes, maybe one of these people gets removed from the staff tag that we searched by, then if I go and reload that search, so if I go in here to load a saved search, and then I go and search by that mechanic again, that person is not going to show up because they no longer apply to that particular search. So it's saving the filters. It's not saving the results. And you can, of course, save as many of those types of searches as you want to. To load a saved search, you can do that right off the bat on this page. Just click on Load Saved Search, pick from your list, and then you can apply those results. I also want to point out these saved searches will show up in that same reporting menu that we were looking at. So if you go into Report Management again, the Query section here lets you select all volunteers, your previous search, or any of your saved searches. So those will show up in here as an option for reporting as well. Likewise, down on that yearly participation report, you can use those saved searches here too. So one last icon in there when you're engaging saved searches, you can delete saved searches as well. So if you're not sure what one of these is actually running, or maybe you don't care to have that search anymore, you can delete that and make a new version of it, whatever you need to do. Okay, in the same manner that you have these saved search options on the volunteer database, you can also take those same sorts of actions in the group database. So again, run a search, then go down here, save a search, load, or delete. And then same thing also on the opportunity management side. So you can run an advanced search for a set of opportunities. Maybe you only want to view all of your open opportunities with a certain tag. That might be a pretty common way to use this feature, right? And then you can basically save the search. Then you can load that up whenever you need to find, all of your family-friendly events. For example, I just ran that search here. So I could go and save that search for all my open family-friendly events, then load it whenever I want to review those. Okay, very good question. I think we've had a few other questions come in that were more specific to your organizations, but feel free to continue writing those in. I think we're going to move on here for today, though. If you do have further questions, I want to point out the resources available to you. Hopefully you're already aware, but whenever you're logged in as an admin, you'll see at the bottom of the page this Need Help icon. This is how you engage with our customer support team. If you click on this, you can type in a question or a topic. It says, how can we help? So let's say you want to learn more about tags. You can search for that term, review any articles that have to do with that. This is a really robust database. If you like to learn this way, there's a lot of information in here, and we do keep this up to date, so I'd encourage you to utilize this. But no matter what you've searched by, you can always click on Contact Us and engage with our customer support team. So you can submit a ticket through here, ask questions that are obviously unique to your system, or maybe you just have questions about how to accomplish something or how to run a particular search. I kind of mentioned earlier that you can turn any search into a report. So if you're having trouble figuring out how to report on a certain piece of information, feel free to ask questions about that through here. Our customer support team is excellent. So this is a good resource. I mentioned earlier also the YouTube channel, video.servicetech.com, where all of our tutorials are housed. That's also a very good resource. So once again, I just want to thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure to see you all in the chat. I know I've worked with a lot of you directly, so thanks so much for joining. And if you do have further questions on this topic, feel free to engage with our customer support team. We are grateful for the work that you do. It is our joy to get to work with all of you and the organizations and the communities that you're touching. So thanks for partnering with us, and thanks for letting us partner with you and help you serve your communities as well. If you have further questions from today, please contact our support. Otherwise, thanks so much for your time, and hope you have a great rest of your day.